In this video, I am going to explain the hysteresis loop, an experiment on hysteresis loop. In this video, I will cover the introductory part of the video and experimental part of the video. In the introductory part, I will cover these 9 topics. In the experimental part, I will cover these 8 topics. So, without further any ado, let's get started. So, what is hysteresis? Before reading this stuff, which is written on this screen, I am proceed here. As this is the diagram of magnetic hysteresis of ferromagnetic material. In the diagram, we see that the value of M and H started to increase from origin and reach at some point. But when they try to recover its original position, that is H equals to 0 and M equals to 0, we see that H first goes to 0 and M remains behind. But actually, both M and H started from origin, but we see that H reached first and M remains behind. In this rubber band diagram, we see this is in the loading case. We see when force is equal to 0, extension is 0, and the force increases, that is on the loading case, force increases, the rubber band, in the rubber band extension increases. But in the unloading case, as we remove weight or force, we see that when the force is this much, the extension was this. But when the force is again reached this value, then extension is lagged behind. Extension is not reached at this value. Extension is reached remains behind. In the Schmidt trigger, we see this is the input and output of, this is the curve between input and output of Schmidt trigger. This curve is that on that position when steady state started. But when the input increases, when the Schmidt trigger is off, and we increase the input, output increases and they reach this position. So this curve is actually, when we see the complete curve, which includes the steady state and transient state, we see that this curve started from origin and reached, and that is when input and output value both are 0, and when we increase input, output is increased. But we decrease the input, output, it not get to goes to 0, it is remain this. So in this all figures, we see that there is some property. There are 2 properties which started simultaneously, but one of them to get its original position, second remains behind. So this is the meaning of word hysteresis, that is deficiency or lagging behind. This word is derived from Greek word, ancient Greek word, which meaning deficiency or lagging behind. This word was used for explaining the behavior of magnetic material by Sir James Alfred Ewing. This is the personality which coined or which used this term to explain the behavior of ferromagnetic substance. Or this was the Scottish physicist and engineer. He explained he used the word hysteresis in the 1819. So it is the dependence of the state of a system on its history. For example, a magnet may have more than one possible magnetic moment in a given magnetic field, depending on how the field changed in the past. So we see that previously on the 3 curve, and I forgot to cover this topic. When one of the value one of the property get to its original value. The other property, how much lagged behind, it is depend on the history of the system. It may be possible that the when the h equals to 0 m reached here, if the if if we if we instead of increasing h up to this value, if we decrease the m previously before here, if we decrease, if we curve r goes to this and then return, so it is depend on the history. This, and finally, the full definition of what hysteresis is this: it is the phenomena. It is the phenomena in which the value of a physical property lags behind changes in the effect causing it. As we see in this curve, the value of m lagged behind the value of h, the value of extension lagged behind the value of force, the value of output lags behind the value of input. So it is that phenomena in which the value of physical property lags behind changes in the effect causing it. As for instance, where magnetic induction lags behind the magnetizing force. Next, manifestation of hysteresis. The phenomena of hysteresis is not only occurs in the ferromagnetic or ferroelectric material. It also occurred in the elastic properties of material, as we see in the curve, this curve, deformation of rubber band. It also occurs in Schmidt trigger in many other natural phenomena. In the natural system, it is often associated with the irreversible thermodynamics change, such as phase transition, and with internal friction dissipation is common effect. In all the three cases, there is some dissipation. It is regarding the irreversible thermodynamics change. It is connected with irreversible thermodynamics change. Now, types of hysteresis. There are two types of hysteresis: rate dependent and rate independent. In the rate dependent hysteresis, the hysteresis phenomena depends upon the rate. That is, it depends upon how fast we changing the value of one property. So the other property will respond accordingly the rate. It can be dynamic, lag between an input and output. Rate disappears if the input is varied slowly. This is known as rate dependent hysteresis. An example of rate dependent hysteresis is due to dissipation effect like friction. And the second is rate independent hysteresis, in which the rate does not depend how fast one physical property changed. The other physical property changed in the same manner. It does not depend upon the rate. Magnetic hysteresis loop are mainly rate independent, which makes a durable memory possible. Now, what is magnetic hysteresis? Magnetic hysteresis occurs when an external field is applied to a ferromagnetic, such as iron, and the atomic dipole align themselves with it. Even when field is removed, the part of alignment will be retained. The material has become magnetized. Once magnetized, the magnet will stay magnetized indefinitely. To demagnetize it, require heat or magnetic field in the opposite direction. This is the effect that provides the element of memory in the hard disk drive. Magnetic hysteresis is characterized as a lag of magnetization of magnetic flux density behind the magnetic field intensity. That is, both started from origin, but magnetic field intensity is reached first origin and the magnetization or magnetic flux density remains behind. The relation between M and H or B and H in ferromagnetic material is quite complex. It is often not linear and depends on the magnetic history of the sample, as we explained previously. This is the figure which depict the behavior of material as we take it through one cycle of magnetization. This is the curve between magnetization and applied field. This is the curve between magnetic induction and the applied field. Basically, there are two ways to represent the magnetic hysteresis phenomena, by M versus H curve or by B versus H curve. There are some misconceptions and misunderstanding because there are two ways to describe the magnetic hysteresis phenomena. We actually all the books mix both things, which makes some misconception. I will cover this in the further video. So as you see, value of H is started from origin and increases along with M also increases. When we decrease the value of H, the magnetization remains behind H. Now in this curve there is a saturation point, after which if we increase apply H, the value of H, how many magnetization does not increase. This is the case here. This is the saturation magnetization. Now after reaching saturation magnetization, if we decrease the applied field and take it to zero, that is remove external field, the material is magnetized, and this is the remnant magnetization. To demagnetize material, we have to change the direction of applied field, and this point our magnetization goes to zero. This is the intrinsic coercive. This force at its magnetization becomes zero. This force is known as coercive, intrinsic coercive force. And when we further increase the cycle, and when we further increase the applied field in the negative direction, our material started to magnetize, and the saturation point is reached. It is the reverse. In this case, the direction of saturation is the reverse, and when we decrease the magnetization field, the magnetization also decrease, but it is not reached first to the value of zero. Magnetization does not reach at the value of zero, but field is reached first, and then we increase. This curve goes like this. In the magnetic induction, although we see that there should be saturation point, but in the magnetic induction there is not saturation point. This is the misconception which I will cover ahead. This is the case when magnetic induction, when the applied field becomes zero, magnetic induction, the material is this much, and we decrease. This is the applied field, external field, which required to decrease magnetic induction, to remove magnetic induction, that is to zero magnetic induction. It is not the same as the intrinsic coercive force. This field is less than the coercive field. This is a misconception which I will cover, because some books cover, although every book assume both the values same. Explanation of hysteresis law for M versus H. Starting from demagnetizing state, magnetization increase with increased field, as we see along this curve OAPC, and finally reach the saturation point. which is denoted by ms. If if the if we if we in the region of OA, the magnetization is almost reversible. That is, if we decrease the value of applied field, the magnetization goes to origin 0. But after that, if we increase the external field, then the magnetization does not goes to 0. It goes in the another curve, another path. Beyond the region of OA, the process of magnetization are no longer reversible. It is if the field is increased from its value at the point B, decrease point P, the magnetization comes back not along POA but along the minor loop P dash. The behavior represents the alignment and merger of domain until no further enhancement is possible. It is pointless to increase the magnetic intensity a magnetic field H beyond this because magnetization does not increase. This is the case of saturation. If the magnetic field is decreased from saturated state, the magnetization gradually decreases along CD, not along CBAO. At H equals to 0, it reaches non-zero value of MR, which is called residual magnetization or remanence. In this situation, the domains are not completely randomized. Even though external driving field has been removed, further increase of the magnetic field in the negative sense result in a continuous decrease of the intensity of magnetization, which finally falls to 0. The absolute value of the field at this point is called intrinsic coercive field. It is not same as coercive field because this is with the B versus H curve. I am here explaining the M versus H curve. This portion DE of the magnetization curve is often referred to as demagnetizing curve. Certain domains are flipped, the net field inside stands nullified. But the enhancement or increase of the H in the negative sense result in the increase of intensity of magnetization in the negative sense. Finally, to negative saturation magnetization, if the field is then reverts again to the positive sense, the magnetization change along FGC and the closed loop CDEFGC is formed. This loop is called hysteresis loop, and this is loop for M versus H curve. For a given value of H is not unique. As we see that for given value of H, M is not unique. For this value, M is this and also can be this. So it depends on the previous history of the sample, whether we are demagnetizing or we are. So it depends upon the previous history of the sample. This phenomena is called hysteresis, as I have explained. Domain theory very well explains the behavior of ferromagnetic substances. In short, phenomena of hysteresis in ferromagnetic substances is due to the reversibility of domain wall displacement, which I will explain in this part. Why do ferromagnetic materials show hysteresis phenomena? Because this is the cartoon image at the microscopic level inside the ferromagnet. The individual atoms or ions or molecules in a ferromagnetic material possess a dipole moment. However, they interact with one another in such a way that spontaneously they align themselves in a common direction over a microscopic volume, which we call domain, like this domain, this domain, this domain, this domain. The explanation of this effect comes under quantum mechanics, this story of ferromagnetism. Each domain has a net magnetization and the typical domain size is 1 mm. Domain contains about 10 raised to power 11 atoms. In the absence of magnetic field, the magnetization varies randomly from domain to domain. That becomes to cancel, and there is no bulk magnetization. When we apply an external magnetic field H, domain walls shift. Those domain walls with dipole moment align with the applied field. Uh, Domain walls shift, and that domains which are opposite or which is another in the direction goes to in the direction tends to go in the direction of applied external field. This is by displacement of domain wall. Those domain with the magnetic dipole moment aligned with the applied field grows. So that domains which is in the applied field grows at the expansion of domain having randomly directed magnetic or oppositely directed magnetic dipole moment. The result is the net magnetization that tends to be in the direction of H. After applying field, domain wall displaced, and finally the overall domains goes in the direction of magnetic field. In the ideal case, at the high magnetic field saturation result where the all domains combined into one as this. But in the real material, imperfections and boundary result in the domain wall encountering of resistance or motion. This is due to this a phase lag then develops between the magnetization and applied field. If an alternative field is applied to the material, its magnetization will trace a loop called a hysteresis loop. However, periodic excitation of ferromagnetic material dissipates energy and generates heat because there is resistance. Although this resistance is not same as mechanical resistance, but this is a resistance. This energy per unit volume dissipated in 1 cycle is equal to the area enclosed within the BH hysteresis loop. The dissipation arises from resistance to propagation of the domain wall. That exists because our external field is trying to align all the domains in the direction of itself. The existence of domains and their motion in H are not speculation. This is not just a case to explain things. It is reality. One may observe this under a microscope, under sprinkling a liquid suspension of powdered ferromagnetic substance of samples. Thus, the motion of domain can be observed. Now, factors which affect dependence of B over H. Demagnetizing factor and eddy current. There are two types of factor which affect the dependence of B over H. One is demagnetizing factor and other is eddy current. The apparent magnetization curve of a material depends not only its magnetic susceptibility but also on the shape of specimen. Here the meaning of magnetic susceptibility is that how much our substance accept the external field, the effect of external field. If the susceptibility, yes, when a specimen of finite size is magnetized by external magnetic field, the free poles which appears on the ends will produce. There are two ways to explain the demagnetizing factor. I will explain the demagnetizing factor as same as in the electrostatic case, that is by using poles. I know although the magnetic poles does not exist, but it makes our life too easy. As in the Biot-Savart law, we use infinitesimal current element which does not exist. Same, but we use it. So here I will use the magnetic pole. The word magnetic pole to explain in the easy manner the demagnetizing factor, although it is not wrong to explain demagnetizing factor in this way. We can explain demagnetizing factor in another way, but I will use this way. When a specimen of finite size is magnetized by an external magnetic field, the free poles which appears on the ends, same as in the electrostatic case, will produce a magnetic field directed opposite in the magnetization. Here is the external magnetic field from here to here. So positive magnetic poles which goes with accumulated here, and the negative magnetic pole is accumulated here on the boundary of surface. One type. Due to this, from inside the material, the demagnetizing field appears. This field is called the demagnetizing field HD. Due to this, the increment of B sorry for interruption. Yes, this field is called the demagnetizing field HD. Due to this, increment of B or M over H is affected. It reduces the local field acting in the specimen, also make the surrounding field non-uniform. The intensity of demagnetizing field HD is proportional to the magnetic pole density and therefore to the magnetization. So that we have HD equals to N into H upon mu naught. Here N is the demagnetizing factor, which depends on the shape of the specimen and in the direction of magnetization. I is the magnetic pole density. Yes. Hey. This will is called demagnetizing field HD. Due to this, increment of B over H, B or M over H is affected. It reduces local field acting in the specimen and also makes the surrounding field non-uniform. The intensity of demagnetizing field HD is proportional to the magnetic pole density and hence therefore to the magnetization. So we have HD equals to N I upon mu naught. N equals to N times M. I forgot to write this. Where N is the demagnetizing factors, which depends on the only the shape of the specimen, and it is very difficult to calculate for every shape of material. And the direction of the magnetization. I is the magnetic field density and M is the magnetization. Here the HD is also equals to N times M. For instance, N approaches 0 for elongated thin specimen magnetized along its long axis, whereas it is large for thick and short specimen. Surface magnetic free poles and resulting demagnetizing field. Therefore, due to this hysteresis loop is sheared. Because the actual or true field acting in the material is smaller than the external field. H. Now, external field H. Therefore, due to this, hysteresis loop is sheared. This is because the actual or true field acting in the specimen, usually called the effective field H EF, is smaller than the applied field H. Because of our resulting field acting in the specimen is less than H, so we have to when we draw the curve between applied field, not effective field. So the effect of this is less because our applied field is diminished by some factor due to the demagnetization factor effect. So our curve is sheared. So we have to account for this so that hysteresis loop represent the properties of material independently of the shape of the specimen used for the test. In the case of conducting ferromagnetism, there are second factor which affect the shape of the hysteresis loop, which is eddy current, which is in the case of conducting ferromaterial. Due to the eddy current, several additional problems also arises, originating from the eddy current originates due to the periodic change in the applied field. When we tried to trace the hysteresis loop after applying AC magnetic source, so due to the periodic change in the applied magnetic field, eddy current will generate. Due to this, there are several problems arises. This current gives rise to a magnetic field in the sample, which counteract the variation of the field, and in turn renders the field acting in the non-uniform and different from the applied field, both in the magnitude and the phase. So this eddy current tried to stop the alternation of the applied field. So due to this, when we after reaching the saturation point, when we goes to decrease our external field due to the eddy current, the resulting external field is not decreases at the first, it increases. So our hysteresis loop gets some smaller loop near the saturation point, here and here. Thus, apart from the resistive heating of the sample because of the eddy current, the forward and backward path trace near the saturation will be different, which will lead to a small loop instead of horizontal line in the hysteresis loop as shown in figure. So, as I have said previously, that there are some misconception and misinterpretation concerning hysteresis loop. The root of the problem arises to be the existence of two ways of presenting hysteresis loop for ferromagnetic material. As we see that we can express or present the hysteresis loop for ferromagnetic material either by B versus H curve or M versus H curve. Hence, the properties of the M versus H type hysteresis loop or are often ascribed to the B versus S type loops and vice versa, giving rise to various misconceptions concerning the meaning of physical quantity as well as the characteristic feature of hysteresis loop for soft and hard magnetic material. Oh, I forgot to explain what is soft magnetic material, what is hard magnetic material. The soft magnetic material is the one which easily magnetizes after applying a small value of external field. And there is a hard magnetic material which it is hard to magnetize. So we have to apply higher magnetic field, higher external magnetic field to magnetize it. Now, some of the misconception, misinterpretation are there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 types of misconception, which I will cover. Misinterpretation of the coercivity HC on B versus H curve as a point at which M equals to 0. This is the misconception in which we said on the B versus H curve, the coercivity is the point at which magnetization equals to 0. But coercivity is the point at which magnetic field intensity, that is B, is equals to 0. On the B versus H curve, coercivity H is the point at which magnetic field intensity, that is B, inside the magnetic material equals to 0. Whereas in the M versus H curve, coercivity, that is, I think I should say it as intrinsic coercivity. HCI is the point at which magnetization is equals to 0. Both are not the same, since B equals to mu naught times H plus M. So when B equals to 0, that is the point of coercivity. M is not equals to 0. M is minus HC. H is the coercive field. If we put this value in this means that the direction of magnetization is still opposite to the applied field, because HC is negative and negative opposite. So direction, it's applied field. Further, increase of the negative HC in the third quadrant on the B versus H curve leads to H M equals to 0. So we have to further increase the applied field in the negative direction to get the point at which magnetization is equals to 0, because here magnetization is, because when the B equals to 0, magnetization is decreased but not reached at the point M equals where this is equals to 0. So we have to increase. So we have to go in the third quadrant of the B versus H curve, which I have shown in this figure. This figure. This is why the value of HCI on the M versus H curve is always higher than that HC on the B versus H curve. Second misconception is the concerning of meaning of saturation induction. It is B saturate. After the reaching of saturation point, M becomes constant. Magnetization becomes constant because there is no further alignment of the, increment of the domain in the direction of external field, because all the domain which can be aligned in the direction of magnetic field has been aligned. So magnetization becomes constant, which is equals to M saturation. Further increase of the applied field, H no longer change in the value of magnetization. However, this is not the case of the induction, because as we see, B equals to mu naught times H plus M, where H is the external field and M is the magnetization. So although M is reached to saturation, M is not changing, but H is changing because due to the application of external field. So B is also changing. After saturation point is reached, B increases with H. So there is no case with the saturation in the B versus H curve. But some books cover misconception concerning the actual inclination of the B versus H or M versus H curve after saturation. There are also, although this seems to this, that when this case, when there is no, when magnetization goes to saturation, that is we get horizontal line, horizontal sloped, zero sloped horizontal line in the M versus H curve after saturation, and in this we will get slant line. But there is some other misconception which is covered in this. Misconception concerning the actual inclination of B versus H or M versus H curve after saturation. After saturation, in the B versus H curve, there will be slant line, but for B lines, and in the M versus H curve, there will be a horizontal line. Misconception arises the shape of the, so in this case, misconception arises for the shape of the M versus H loop and B lines after saturation appears to be represented by horizontal line with zero inclination. So I mean, in the B line, saturation appears to be represented by horizontal line, which cannot be in the case in the B versus H curve, because B also increases with the H, or misconception arises due to the on the M versus H curve, the shape of the hysteresis loop resembles closely to the shape of the B versus H loop. That is, there is inclination after saturation on the M versus H curve. That is, the M line after saturation appears to be represented by lines which with a noticeable inclination. Actually, after magnetization, saturation is reached, M becomes constant. Hence, M line after saturation should be represented by a horizontal line with zero inclination. Since B equals to mu naught times H plus M after saturation, M becomes constant, but B does not become constant. B increases due to increment of the H. So there must be inclination in B lines after saturation. The appearance of B H curve graph depends on the actual inclination of the B line after saturation, which also. So what will be the inclination? It depends upon the what is the scale we are using, because on the showing the data on the curve, inclination depends upon the scale which is using to represent our data. Because if our slope is 2, and if we show x-axis on the y-axis half of the scale with respect to h, then there will be zero inclination because of the scale used. Now, next misconception arises concern the dependence of the shape of hysteresis loop on the direction of applied field. So, another source of confusion may arises due to the fact that the values of BR or HC for the same material may be noticeably different for different physical conditions. That is, remanent magnetization and coercive field. For the same material may be noticeably different for different physical conditions. That is, remanent field intensity and coercive field depends upon the physical situation to which a given material is subjected. Even the same chemically material may behave either as magnetically soft or hard material depending on the physical condition applied. So, any material can behave like apparently soft or hard material. It depends upon the physical situation. So we have to consider this carefully. We have to treat this carefully. Here, let us consider the possible different shape of the hysteresis loop as illustrated in figure for soft material. The M versus H loop A and B in figure A are for the same material, but the loop A corresponding to greater permeability and saturation values MS than loop B. In this loop, the small external field induces high magnetization. So there is greater permeability and saturation point. Then loop B, we find that the various books, one of the two distinct types of hysteresis loop, that is in one book A types graph or in other books B types graph, is supposedly for soft material. But as you see, A should be by definition A resemble with soft material and B resemble with hard material. The physical reason of such a difference is that on either graph B versus A or M versus H, that the loop A is obtained if the edge is applied parallel to the easy direction of magnetization in metal, because our material is anisotropic. So this phenomenon is dependent on the direction. If we have applied the external field in the in the easy direction, then our material will be easily magnetized, and we get looped A-type loop. Whereas B-type is looped is obtained if the edge is applied either parallel to the higher direction or perpendicular to the easy direction. So confusing point is that A and B loops appears on the BH curve as the illustration of the distinction between soft and hard material represented by. So confusing point is that the A and B loops appears on the B versus H graph as illustration of the distinction. As we use this in the A part of the A types of loop or B types of loop as the distinction between hard and soft material, but both types of curve can be obtained for soft material. So confusing point is that loops A and B appears on the B versus H graph as the illustration of the distinction between soft and hard material, but represented by a narrow slant line B and for wide straight line A respectively. Confusing point is that A loop A is for soft and loop B for hard, but this can be for both soft. These two cases can be for soft material. In fact, we can obtain a narrow slant line like the loop A for soft material. This possibility arises from anisotropic properties of soft material. Thus, both A and B types of hysteresis loop are physically possible for soft material. Now, thus both A and B types of hysteresis loop are physically possible for soft material. However, the value of remanence corresponding to each loop are markedly different. So, there can be two types of hysteresis loop for soft material, but the remanence corresponding to each loop are different, as we see in this figure A. An additional misconception arises when two types of hysteresis loop A and B are presented on the same M versus H diagram as figure A for the same material. The additional problem arises because when we represent two types of hysteresis loop on the same diagram for the same material. For the loop B, at first apparent saturation at the lower value H apparent saturation is achieved, which is corresponding to full internal saturation, but along the easy magnetic direction. This in loop B, saturation is reached due to the internal saturation along the easy direction. The full saturation is achieved only if the field is further increased, which brings the rotation of the magnetization from easy direction to the direction of the field, which is completed at B saturation. This then corresponds to the full saturation of the magnetization as the same level for loop A as shown in figure. So first this is the saturation for loop A. Saturation. This is the saturation for loop B. This is apparent saturation. I forgot to cover. There is other full saturation like soft material. Loop A. The apparent saturation may correspond to 70% of the full saturation, and field HB saturation of up to several times higher than the HA are required to achieve the full saturation MS. In this experimental practice, the full saturation with the field in the hard magnetization direction is rarely achieved. So, in the experiment, the full saturation in the hard magnetization direction is rarely achieved because we have to apply external field of higher value. Hence, the experimental loops often indicate the apparent. Hence, in the experiment, loops often indicate an apparent inclination after apparent saturation, similar to the B line inclination on the BH curve. So, due to this, M versus N M types loops also appears to be inclined. Misconception arising from the hysteresis. Another misconception, and the last one misconception which I have covered is the hysteresis loop for both soft and hard material presented in the same figure or using the same scale. The hysteresis loop for both and soft and hard material are found in the same text, plotted schematically for comparison, either in the same diagram or in the two related diagrams using the same scale. Normally, such presentation may help to convey better, clear picture to the student. However, an opposite effect is achieved if there exists a great difference in the scale for two curves plotted in this way. The value of HC is for the hardest and the softest material may differ by a factor of 5:10⁶ times in the SI unit. But in this curve, we see that this is only up to several times or 100 times, but it is to million times. So, however, it appears from figure as shown that the coercive field for hard magnetic material is just several times larger than the soft ones. Now, how do we get the value? How do we get the experimental value? The concept of getting hysteresis loop is this. We will flow different in magnitude as the current in the solenoid. Due to this current, magnetic field generated in the solenoid will be sinusoidal. This type of field will serve our purpose, and we will get different hysteresis loop and we place the sample in the solenoid, and we will get different hysteresis loop for the same material as shown in the figure, which I have drawn in all the hysteresis in one diagram. This diagram takes into account the effect of eddy current also. So, although this is not the saturation case because I have not increases the field up to higher value. So, as we see, the intercept of on the magnetic axis, which corresponding to retentivity and soft magnetization will continue to increase with the applied field up to very high value. Interception on the magnetization axis and the tip of the curve will increases with the applied field because we have increases by the current magnetic field. This is not reached up to higher value. Hence, retentivity and saturation magnetization will be asymptotic value of the M intercept and tip height respectively against for H plots. It also retentivity, the case of retentivity and saturation magnetization will be obtained. We will draw every intercept for external field, and we see that as we increases the magnetic field, this intercept goes to saturation point. This is the remnant magnetization, and the same as we increases the magnetic field, as we draw for one types of magnetic field and second and third and fourth, as we will see our magnitude of magnetic field increases, this type of tip goes to a limiting value, which is the asymptotic value on the H tip height and the H plot, and and then we will get saturation point. It also refers to the situation when shielding effects are insignificant. Furthermore, the width of the loop along the direction of the applied field will be depends on the magnitude of the field. As we see, the width depends and increases because shielding due to the indicator is proportional to the field. So width is this is the maximum width. This maximum width is obtained because of eddy current case. I think in actual, this is my opinion. I think in actual case, when if there is no, in the ideal case where there is no eddy current effect, the coercive field will be same. It does not depend how much field we have applied. This will be same. That is this curve. This intercept will be common point. According to me, in the no eddy current, the width of the loop on both sides should not depend on the magnitude of the field, and this goes to 1 point and this goes in this side is 1 point, and the width show the value of external field to demagnetize material, because the width show the value of external field demagnetize material completely, irrespective of the how much it is gained magnetization before. So for all types of magnetization, external field, the field required to demagnetize material should be same. Hence, the dependence of width on the magnitude of field is due to the shielding. But here, the width depends on the magnitude of field is due to the shielding of the eddy current, which is proportional to the external field. So when we draw loop width with versus h, we will get this types of curve and we will extrapolate this curve to h equals to 0 when we will get that case when no eddy current is not appears. Therefore, the true value of coercivity corresponding to no eddy current situation will be obtained by extrapolating the half loop width line to the h equals to 0 axis. If there were no eddy current effect, then the curve to decide coercivity will be like this. Because coercivity does not depend upon the field of how much field we have applied. Now this is up to the introductory part.